Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our lunch lab today. I'm Sally Delisle, co-owner and director of trainings at ChildLight Education Company. Our mission is providing wellness education to create happy, healthy, and resilient youth and families. Today, we are talking with Colleen Smith. Thanks for joining us today, Colleen.
Thank you for having me.
So Colleen is one of our ChildLight Education Company teacher trainers, and she also wears many other hats. Colleen, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a kids and family yoga teacher up in upstate New York, actually like almost northern New York. And I teach a lot of classes every week, and I do the teacher trainings like Sally mentioned. And I love to write like curriculum and lesson plans. So we have some of those that I've done. And I recently wrote a workshop, which is why we are here.
Indeed. So, Colleen, you chose to focus on a topic that is affecting so many people right now, and that is the topic of anxiety. And we had the opportunity to chat for a little bit before I pressed record. And funny but not funny, we were both having a little bit of anxiety about pressing record to talk about anxiety. Anxiety shows up in so many different ways for different people, and many people don't even realize what anxiety is and how it shows up in their lives or in other people's lives. Could you explain to us what exactly is anxiety? Is there a history to anxiety? Why does it seem so prevalent right now?
Yeah, so let's define anxiety first. I think that's kind of helpful. Anxiety is a feeling of worry or nervousness or unease that might be about something that's imminent that we know is happening, or it could be something that we don't know. So it's got an uncertain outcome. And I like to look at anxiety as like a spectrum. You can be anxious about a test, but you can also be anxious because there's a dog barking at you. And that's just a little bit of the spectrum, but there's a lot of different levels to anxiety. And I started exploring it more because I've dealt with anxiety in my personal life and in my professional life dealing with kids. And I've seen it a lot more in the last 3 or so years, all the way from little kids to college kids that I taught last year, and to even my friends and my family, that were older, but we're still experiencing anxiety. And that was kind of what got me interested in doing this, because over all of the years, I've read a great deal. I've researched ways to help just in the moment. And I've practiced with a variety of people in my life and shared a lot of tools. And it takes a lot of time to do that, to find the books and read the books and be able to implement them. And you read the whole book and then you're like, all right, well, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good. But then you have to practice them and learn them. And so I thought it would be nice to have one kind of clearinghouse where we could look for books and we could practice some tools that have already been tested and that recommended. And also some basic information. In the workshop, we go into the nervous system and why does anxiety happen and what can it feel like in your body and how it can impact kids and adults, because we're seeing it, like I mentioned, across the ages, all ages. And so if we put it all in one spot, that it might be helpful as a starting place for people to go and find resources and books and tools that they might be able to use.
So you mentioned the nervous system. So if a person is feeling anxious, Could you tell us a bit about the connection between anxiety and the nervous system? Just briefly.
Yes. And like I'm continuing to learn about this. I just had a workshop that I took this morning, and we talked about the gut brain axis and how that is becoming such a great, or it's becoming more researched in terms of anxiety. And I'm fascinated by that. But in terms of anxiety in your nervous system, real quick, when we are faced with a threat, it's a perceived threat. It might not even be an actual threat. A dog might be barking at us and might be going to bite us. That's an actual threat. But a math test maybe isn't an actual threat, but it's a perceived threat to someone. And so in that moment, your sympathetic nervous system activates. And that's when we start to feel really nervous. We might get headaches, stomach aches, feel nauseous, have the butterflies, feel hot, feel flushed, and our emotions can spike. And there's ways that we can help ourselves to get out of that in the moment. And those are some of the things that I share more in the workshop, but there are a few that we can share today. And one of the things that I know you liked that I mentioned in the workshop too, Sally, is that it's really important to practice before you are anxious. And I do this with kids all the time when I'm teaching too in the schools. We practice calm breathing all the time, every time I go in, so that when a child is activated or somebody says to them, take a deep breath and calm down, they know what that means. It might still take some time for them to be able to do it, but they have practiced it. It's not new to them. When somebody is very anxious, very activated, and we try to tell them to calm down, or we try to teach them something new, they're not able to do that. And so learning about these things ahead of time, practicing even on a daily basis, which is what I like to do and what I recommend. And then you have those tools, your body will and your brain will be able to recall them more quickly when you need them.
Excellent. I'm so glad that you brought that up. So glad. When you're activated or upset or anxious, it's so hard to learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
But if you already know it, your body, your mind knows and can recall it. And when you practice it beforehand, sometimes, hopefully quite often, your physiology, your whole body and mind can respond to it more quickly too.
Yes. And I've seen that happen with kids that I work with and in my own family. So I can attest to the fact that really does help.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So you mentioned kids a lot. You did just mention yourself and your family. So this is good for all ages, these tools of which you speak.
Yes, all ages. I have taught this too. I taught a college course last year, and I taught it to the college students, and they loved it. And they were, 20 somethings. And some of their favorite parts of the class were the activities that we did. And my son is in college, or he just graduated, and I have another son in college, and it's excellent for them, in fact, if they're doing something like taking a test or anything that might be anxiety provoking, all the way up to much older adults. And it's never too late to learn. I've had conversations with older adults and they're like, I'm too old for that. I'm like, you're not. It's not like your brain can't learn these things or benefit from them. So I think it's wonderful for every age. I do teach a lot of children, and I love teaching them at a very young age because then they will have those tools as they grow up.
Beautiful. So do you have some tools to share with us today?
I do. And in the workshop, we talk about breathing and movement and some activities. So I wanted to highlight just a couple of those today because they're all so beneficial, but these are some of my favorites. since I'm sitting, we can start with a breathing ball. This is my favorite. I'm just going to go like this for a minute while I talk, because this alone can be very calming. I've seen kids that are crying, and then I start doing this and they get very absorbed and they start watching. But we can use this to help us learn to take a nice, slow, deep breath in and out. When we're activated, like we were talking about, our breath becomes quick.
Oh.
I know, right?
Oh.
It looks really cool, and kids love that. But like I tell them, that doesn't feel good in our bodies. And when we practice calm breathing, we can bring our bodies back to more of a state of rest and equilibrium so that we feel better. And so we practice breathing like this so that when we feel activated or upset, we can recall this. So right now, sit up straight and tall. You can imagine there's a string on top of your head if you'd like to help us sit up straight, because a lot of times we slouch. So sit up straight and tall. I would invite you to put one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest if that would feel good for you. Take a nice, slow, deep breath in. Feel your belly move. Feel your chest rise, and then breathe it all out. Keep your hands there if you would like. I'll move the breathing ball. We'll do a couple more breaths. Nice, slow, deep breath in and out. And another time, deep breath in and out. And I like that. So let's do one more. Deep breath in and out. Excellent.
What if we don't have a breathing ball? Can we still do that breathing exercise?
Yes, great question. You can simply put your hands on your belly and your chest so that you can feel your belly and your chest rise. I often have the kids make breathing balls with their fingers too. So you could imagine that you have a breathing ball. I'll try that. So take a deep breath in, open your fingers, and breathe out and bring your fingers back together. And belly breath is what we were doing with the breathing ball. And that's a foundational breath that you can do at any time. You don't have to be sitting. Like I just slouched a little bit. Did you see that? So it's always nice to make sure that we sit up straight and tall when we breathe so that we can actually take a nice deep breath. And now we can do washing machine. You can do this standing or sitting, just for the sake of me not having to move. We can do it sitting, but if you'd like to stand, you can do that. And we just twist. If our feet are standing, if we're standing up, we don't move our feet at all. And our knees, we kind of can keep those still. And then we can twist our bodies. And for kids, we make this sound, ch, 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 so that we're like a washing machine. If you would like to just breathe, whoops. And this is a great way to get out some extra energy. I do this every morning. I do it throughout the day. If I'm starting to feel anxious about something, or I'm maybe too wound up about something, I have my kids do this. It's not unusual for one of my kids to call me and be upset about something. And I say, go do washing machine. And they'll do it and they'll take some breaths and then we talk, because it's a really nice way to move extra energy that you're feeling through your body. Slow it down. The idea being that once we do that, then we are able to maybe relax a little bit more and take some deep breaths, versus if we have all this amped up energy. And we're going to breathe again in a minute, but now that we're sitting back down, if you did stand up, let's do a little bit of a muscle squeeze. So you can sit with your feet on the floor if they touch. Curl your toes in. Tighten all the muscles in your leg. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Now let them rest. Let them soften. Squeeze the muscles in your middle. So your abdominals, your belly, your back. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Now let them rest. Let them soften. Notice if you feel any tension or tightness in your body, and you see if it's releasing. Curl your fingers into balls gently. Bring your arms up like Superman. Strong, 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 strong. Now let them relax, let them rest, bring them back gently down. Fingers are loose. Bring your shoulders up by your ears, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Let them rest, bring them back down away from your ears. And if you would like to, scrunch up your face like you sucked on a lemon or something really sour. This always looks like so fun, doesn't it? It's a great look. And let it relax, let it rest. Move your tongue around in your mouth a couple of times. Make sure your jaw is not clenched. And let's end with one more belly breath. You can put your hand on your belly and chest if you would like. You can make your breathing ball. Take a nice deep breath in and out. And that sequence didn't take very long, which is one of the other things that I wanted to mention. There is a 30-minute class as part of the workshop that we're offering, but you can do these by themselves or group them together so that you can have just a couple of minutes. If you have a minute or 2 or 5, you can find some things to do for yourself or for somebody that you might be with.
Those were really helpful. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're very welcome.
I feel like those techniques could be practiced really anywhere. I might not practice washing machine if I was standing in the grocery store line, but I could in my office or a kitchen or in my yard, many other spaces. Very helpful. And
Yeah,
we can breathe anywhere.
Exactly. Especially in the grocery store line.
Yes, necessary.
Yep.
So what if I'm just having a day, or someone that I care about is having one of those days or moments, and we've tried all of the techniques that we know and they're not quite working, and we need some more help. What should we do?
So these techniques are meant to help in the moment, potentially, or to support other support services that you might be receiving or somebody might be receiving. So all of that is to say this is never meant to take the place of talking to a doctor, talking to a therapist or a school counselor. That's really, really important to be able to reach out to people. And I know that the medical profession and the mental health profession is very, there's so many people that are seeking support right now. But I just want to make sure that we say that, because never would I want somebody to think that this is all that they should do for anxiety. Anxiety is a beast. And sometimes you do need to receive other support for it. But this is meant to help in the moment and just to gain an understanding, have information. What is anxiety? Knowing what it is and knowing that you have some tools at your disposal can take away some of the power that anxiety has, even if it's just for a little bit. If somebody's in an anxious circle and you can break it just for a second, sometimes it's enough to lessen the anxiety and let them come back to more of a state of feeling, I don't know, equal, more of a, I can't think of the word that I want to say right now, but
stable, equilibrium.
Yeah, more of a stable state versus being activated. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. And offer the resources, like there are books, there are apps, there are a couple of activities that we've included in the workshop. Also knowing that there's a variety of things to try, and there's some on the workshop, but there are many, many other ones that we talk about in our other trainings too.
Mhm.
And so if something doesn't work, keep trying. What works for one person may not work for another. What works in one moment may not work in another moment. And have your tools. Like, I wake up in the middle of the night a lot and can't go back to sleep. And so I have my tools. Sometimes it's because I'm anxious. Sometimes I just can't sleep, but I have my tools that I try. And there's a list of them. And sometimes I get through the list. I'm like, well, I guess I'm laying here, but at least I tried.
That's when we do our best work.
You know, exactly. I told you I have my best ideas at like 3:30 in the morning.
So true. I'm with you. You should just call me.
Hey, Sally.
I'm up, are you?
Yeah, if you get a text or an email from me at like 6:30 or 7 in the morning, I was up in the middle of the night. 'Cause I'm like, hey, I just thought of something.
Yes. So the activities, the tools that you shared with us today, and as you mentioned, there are so many more. Not only in what you shared today and in your workshop that we'll talk about too and share the information about that, but in the yoga practices in general, they are meant to activate the parasympathetic nervous system
Mhm.
and calm the sympathetic nervous system to bring us closer to a state of balance.
Yes, and we go into that a little bit more in depth in the workshop so that people have a good understanding of that and can
Mhm.
also explain it to someone.
Yes. And the beautiful thing about this practice and all of these practices is that, in my opinion, it never gets boring because we can learn about it and study it. And there's always something new to learn, always something new to study in
Mhm.
this lifetime and beyond. They're just paths, and there's always something.
Mhm.
So, how can people learn more? How can they find more resources, books, links, websites?
Yeah, so there's a whole resource section in the workshop. It's at the end of the workshop, and I believe it's 3 pages, 2.5 or 3 pages of books for children, books for adults, apps, and some other activities, different resources that you can look at. So
Yeah.
there's a lot on there that I've included, some of my favorites, some of yours. Yeah, so I wanted to do that so that people don't have to just search, and you know maybe it will be easier to find something and not just have to go spend a lot of money on books that you're not sure if it's going to be helpful.
Excellent. Is there anything else you want to share with people today, Colleen?
um no, I really want this to be a feeling of empowerment for people. I want them to say, okay, now I understand, like take the workshop, say, now I understand what anxiety is. Oh, that's why that I feel like that sometimes. Help kids understand that and know that there are things that you can do quickly and in the moment, instead of feeling like it's too big and too insurmountable to deal with. And I really hope that it's a support for a lot of people.
Thank you so much for talking with all of us today, especially on this topic of anxiety, which for some of us, we can feel ashamed of those feelings. And just the thought of moving through some of these practices and, like you said, taking some of the power away from anxiety. I love that so much. And also talking about it, having you talk about it and share your knowledge, share all these resources, um, helps people to feel that they're not alone.
Yeah. And I actually say this, I think it's one of the last slides, and one of the last things I say in the workshop is we need to normalize it a little bit, because like you said, sometimes people feel ashamed. And if we talk about it and it becomes part of our daily conversation, especially with kids, um, it helps people to feel accepted and that there isn't something wrong with them and that there are things that they can do. And all of that helps to take away a little bit of the power that anxiety can hold.
And give us our power back.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone out there watching this today. We will put the information for Colleen's course out right after this video so that you can find it should you be interested in learning more. And you can always reach out to us at info@childlightyoga.com. And we wish you a lovely rest of your day. Let's go out there and do good things. Take good care of yourselves.